4 o'clock. Call the January 15th, 2025 meeting of the Gardner City Council Finance Committee to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councilor Donalowitz.
Yes.
Councilor
Councilor
Hagelin.
Present.
Councilor Mack. Absent.
So there's no prior reading of prior minutes. Announcement of open meeting recordings with notes in the law in regards to recording this proceeding. Is anyone here recording that is not staff? No one. We will move on to the first time on the agenda. Item number 11457, an ordinance to amend the code of the city of Gardner to have the community development block grant steering committee meet monthly. This is correct from Councilor Tyros. I don't know if the mayor has any updates on the meetings of the committee at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The council president and I have spoken about this as well, about the structure of the committee, the makeup, and things of that nature. There are some requirements that are set for the steering committee for CDBG. We're currently reviewing those, but in the interim time, the assistant director of community development and I have spoken about making sure these meetings are monthly. They're actually meeting on Thursday, so they are continuing to meet monthly out of practice. So I'll let you know how that goes as that continues, but I don't want to speak for President Tyros if he's submitted this.
My question, has the monthly meetings are going to start then this on Thursday? They hadn't before.
Out of practice, they were meeting monthly, but then if the assistant director thought there was some redundant information, the meetings have been canceled. And I think this is one of those situations where the council president was saying, redundant information isn't bad information in some cases. It shows that there's still something happening. So those are the conversations we're just reiterating now. I think it was more just the instance of certain staff members being newer to the positions that they were in and not realizing that that's actually best practice. So they'll be continuing monthly from here on out.
Okay.
Monthly without the cancellations in between, even if it seems like information. Yes, exactly.
Okay. And that's the goal here. On this.
One of these, I'm kind of reading my mind. I was curious to see if this was best practice, if this was something that's already in place. So it does seem like a number of meetings, have had to cancel for different reasons. But obviously, with I think the importance of this program, I think having something established is good.
My thoughts, at least for now, I'd like to keep it on our agenda. Not act on it this time. Here's a placeholder. Can you check in and make sure the meetings are happening, see if this ordinance is necessary to place on file or if the meeting is taking place. So no objection to keep on our agenda.
Sounds good.
On to the next item, item 11458, communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of the review committee for the request for proposals for grant writing and lobbying services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just as I did the last RFP that we did, and actually got very good feedback from different members of the council and members of the public on. Just sharing who was on the committee that reviewed the RFP for the grant writing and lobbyist services for the city. Councilor Hagelin, who's here with us. Ms. Ann Yeagle, who's the executive director of Growing Places, and Dr. Stephanie Marchetti for the reasons that are listed there, mainly because of their extensive background in grant writing. Was one of the reasons why I asked them to help review the proposals we received. You'll see in a later correspondence, because this was written before the later one was done, just because of the timing with the new year and the reorganization of the council, was submitted all together in the end. The committee did unanimously vote to recommend on a 5-year contract, but I just wanted to show who was making that recommendation to.
Council comments. I just appreciate the information by the fellow councilor that spoke on the finance committee here as well. So I guess it kind of some comments from Councilor Hagelin about the committee.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for the opportunity. It was really good to see the different applicants. There was clearly, I think, one who's been with us for some time now that really stood up to the rest and above and beyond. So I think it's good we have this process, and it's good we review to see if there's something better out there in case we're missing an opportunity. But thanks for the opportunity to review those, and I think we're heading in the right direction with the group we've been with. Yeah.
I have nothing further. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to recommend to the whole council that we place this communication on file.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Hagelin, seconded by Councilor Donalowitz to recommend placing this communication on file. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 11459, 11459, a communication from the mayor regarding the awarding of contracts for up to 5 years for grant writing services to Keller Partners and Company. Obviously, this goes along with the previous item as you discussed, Mr. Mayor, but is there anything further to add?
No, this was the unanimous recommendation of the committee, so that moved forward. I believe they were in the process of getting all of their,
It's all in the contracts, right?
okay, so we're in the signature phase now. It's a 3-year with a 2-year renewal. Yeah, it's a 3-year initial contract with the option to extend up to 2 years, and that's where we get the 5 from there that was approved by the council.
And that's similar to many of the contracts that
Yes.
we've been negotiating recently.
Yeah.
Any comments, questions from the committee? And what services, just so people at home, what are they going to be providing?
So there's
Federal, state, administrative.
part of their contract is once a year, they're required to fly up to the city to meet with our department heads to talk about the work that each department is going through. Basically, going through a year-long plan for what projects to look out for when it comes to grant funding, what projects may be in the pipeline, and brainstorming ideas. Really the point of those meetings with our department heads. Additionally, on a bi-weekly basis, the grant writing staff meets with Katie Jablonski and I from my office to talk about the applications that they're currently writing, suggest any applications that we'd like them to look into, and see if there's any suggestions or anything new that's popped up since those department head meetings that we'd like them to look into as well. So it's we're in constant communication with each other. In between, it's mainly just emails with each other, but we do have that standing virtual meeting every 2 weeks just to go through different things with that, and that's all included in that contract as well. So the grants that they write are a result of those conversations, a result of reviewing our capital improvement plan, seeing what we have on our docket, and then taking that and really running with it. We haven't always been successful in every grant application that we have, but we've applied for more grant applications than we ever have before. And I think that just the more applications we submit, the more chance we have of getting any money, whether we get it all or whether we get only a portion of it, it's still more than we were getting before. And it's really worked out very well in our favor.
Once that contract is completed, that'll be sent to the council again?
Yeah. Well, I'll present a final copy of it to the council, but the council doesn't need to approve it.
Correct, yes, just the final copy.
Yeah.
Just for us to. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, so moved to recommend to the council as a whole to place a communication on file.
Second, motion made by Councilor Heckman, seconded by Councilor Jones to place the communication on file. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion carries. Next item, item 11461, a communication from the mayor regarding the FY 20. Oops, this is my apology. Item 11460, a communication from the mayor regarding the execution of the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Teamsters Local 170 Inspectors Union.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, as I've done in the past when we've completed negotiations with the different unions, I give the council a courtesy copy for your information. While the employees who are included in this contract fall under the purview of the Public Safety Committee, where this is financially related because that's how these individuals get paid. That's why it got crossed over here in the Finance Committee. The Inspectors Union voted to unionize just over 2 years ago. This includes the Assistant Director of Public Health, the Food Inspector, the 2 local building inspectors, the Electrical Inspector, and the Plumbing and Gas Inspector. A copy of the fully executed contract that we've negotiated over the course of the past 2.5 years is here included.
Questions, comments from the committee? Neither is there a motion for?
I would move to recommend to the council as a whole that we place the communication on file.
Second, Councilor Heckman, second by Councilor Lawrence to place the communication on file. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion carries. Now, next item 11461, communication from the mayor regarding the FY 2026 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a formalizing the communication that I copied the City Council on the email I sent to the department heads with the budget process for the next budget cycle. Departments have their requests due to my office by the end of the month. At the same time, once all of that's completed and received, the auditor and I will be sitting down to just go over and make the final budget proposal for the year to submit to the City Council, hopefully around the May timeframe, as we've done in the past, but I'll provide updates along the way just to make sure you know what's going on. While the governor is expected to submit her budget by, I Either Friday or Wednesday of next week are the two dates that we're hearing. Normally, it's right after the State of the Commonwealth address that's taking place tomorrow on Thursday, or right before the Mass Municipal Association's annual convention meeting in Boston, which is next Friday. So normally it's around one of those 2 days that the governor just submits the budget. She does have a statutory deadline in which to do so. That'll give us a rough idea of where we're at in terms of things like local aid, Chapter 70, where the Student Opportunity Act lies. But really, we try to wait until the Senate numbers get released. That tends to be where we have the clearer picture of where things are going. Because right now, the state doesn't have April tax collections in, which is normally the highest month for revenue for the Commonwealth, just because tax day is April 15th. There's some other items there that come into play with it. We know right now that the fair share amendment revenue is one of the only things in the state right now that's coming in over budget by the tune of almost $2.8 billion from what we're hearing from the Secretary of Administration and Finance. So that's good on the Chapter 70 side of things, because when that was passed at the ballot, that funding can only be used for education funding or transportation funding. Now, the governor did announce yesterday in Worcester that there's a large portion of this year's surplus going to funding transportation initiatives. But she did mention yesterday that it's going to be about 50% of fair share revenue going into transportation next year, which leaves the rest going towards education. So that's one of the reasons why we wait until the May timeframe to submit the budget to the council. While we start working on it now and get further along the way, we really just want to make sure our revenue numbers are as close to solidified as possible. So that's the goal there too. I've also been working with a group of internal employees on drafting a plan to implement the salary survey that was recently done, and coming up with a plan to do a salary matrix for our non-union employees and department heads, which is something that was the goal of us doing. It's just when we got the results of the survey, it was more just ranges that were there rather than actual step scale. So we do have an internal working group that's coming together with a salary proposal as well too. So hopefully when the budget has all of that in, we'll be able to put all that together.
Yeah, and it's, same goal for me. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I would recommend to move to recommend to the whole council that we place this resolution on file.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Henry, second by Councilor Bernard. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 11462, a communication from the mayor regarding receipt of prison mitigation funds for the from Commonwealth for FY 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We receive funding from the Commonwealth when it's included in the state budget as a reimbursement for the money we pay for our utility work and any other ancillary services that are provided to the NCCI Gardner facility located at 140. Basically, this is almost a pilot payment in recognition of us having a state prison facility here. So we did receive $149,502.32 this year from the Treasurer's Office as part of that funding. So since that came in, it does fall to the general fund, but it's something that as an additional revenue source that we really don't know if it's coming each and every year. I wanted to make sure the council knew that that came in.
I think you recommend, you mentioned you're right too, I think our legislative delegation, this was not always the case. This money was absent for a long time from Gardner, and I know John Slotnick and Senator Flanagan at the time, and the Brewer, they worked hard to make sure this money was in there for our area. So yeah, thank you for that.
Question: how consistently have we been getting it for the past several years?
I'd probably say when Governor Baker took office is when we started getting it back again.
Is it a normal number or is it widely?
It varies. It's a
Well, how would you say? It's like between 100 and 1,000.
There's normally a flat number put into the state's budget, and then that's divided out by a population of inmates in the prison to the host communities for it.
File. Say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 11463, communication from mayor regarding the snow and ice expense account as of January 7th, 2025.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is one of the letters that is going to be coming to the council um, on a somewhat regular basis, just so you know the status of the account. This is when we kind of anticipate goes into deficit every year, just because by the way the general laws are written, whatever we budget the previous year, we have to budget the next year. But we also don't know how much is going to fall out of the sky on a given year, or what the temperatures are going to be like. So this is one that we anticipate we're going to have to put free cash towards this year. When I wrote the letter, we had about $95,000 left of the $300,000 that we put into the account for snow and ice. I believe that's already in deficit now with the recent snow that we just got. A lot of what we've been spending money on this year has been ice and salting the roads to prevent icy conditions and for the safety conditions on the roads themselves. We have the salt, so it's not a capacity concern. But every time we send crews out to salt the roads, it costs us the same as if we're plowing snow because it's the same amount of equipment, the same amount of crews, the same amount of materials that's there. So that's what's just as a quick update as to where we currently are in that budget cycle, so that when the free cash appropriation does come, it's not going to be a surprise to the council as well. There was a letter that I believe was omitted from this agenda, but it'll come on the, I'm guessing on the next meeting, talking about health insurance rates and where we are currently on our health insurance expenditures. It's going to be in the same vein of that, just making sure that we know we're going to need a free cash appropriation for this at the end of the year. So just it's the communication of what we're building up to, so that when the final number comes, it's not a surprise.
Comments from the committee?
No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
As the standard procedure, we're allowed to spend into deficit. This is how we handle these funds in the year. However much of ice and snow is in the year is not under our control. We take care of roads for our citizens, so just appreciate the update. As expected, when you stated, we were probably going to be the letters from over a week ago. We had some letters since then, so I expected you to say something effective. We're probably in deficit. Yeah. Again, thank you for the updates. And is there motion on the floor?
Move to recommend that the council as a whole to place the communication on file.
Second, motion made by Councilor Eglin, second by Councilor Morales, place the communication on file. Is there further discussion on the motion? None. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item is item 11064, an order authorizing the creation of a new human resources manager position for the city's human resources department. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Morse had intended to be here. Unfortunately, she's under the weather today, so I'll be covering for this one here too. Ms. Graves, who works in the Human Resources Department, is also here if there's any questions by the council. What Director Morse is looking at doing with this position is, after being here for about 8 months or so at this point, and seeing how the departments operate, there was a vacancy in one of the 2 clerical positions in her office, and seeing the ways that those positions function, she said that she'd rather have one person who was coming in at a higher grade, who's able to handle larger responsibilities within the human resources department itself, rather than have 2 clerical positions. The way that this was funded in the past with previous budgets is there was a full clerical position funded in the budget, and then a part-time clerical position who was funded in the budget. The position, however, had full-time hours because the other remaining 50% of that one position was paid for out of the golf enterprise account, and they were doing all of the building and clerical work for the golf course. What Director Morse is proposing is that we combine these 2 positions permanently into one single position, could take that position in half, lump the salary together in that, and then the golf department would have their own part-time clerical staff member. Director Morse has said they can continue to use the space in their office, but have that person just do golf work, and have this new person just do human resources work. The way that the charter is written, it says any changes to the structures of a department have to go before the city council first, before any structural changes are done, where we are basically eliminating a position out of the department. That's considered a structural change, so that's why this has to come before the council. If the council approves this move, the next move would be an ordinance change that would include this new position title in the compensation schedule ordinance. We normally don't try to do pay increases midway through the fiscal year, but where this is basically creating a new position by combining 2 into 1 for efficiency purposes, that's where that falls into that exception.
And about the position itself?
Nothing.
Questions, comments from the committee?
I think presumably the golf would have competition
There's someone already in that role there now. The current clerical staff member who was doing part-time HR, part-time golf, is a state retiree who can only work a certain number of hours a year, so he was going to have to go down to part-time anyway. So he'll continue to remain as a part-time golf clerk, just going with the schedule he would have to go do anyway.
That part-time position would not be benefited?
Correct.
And I believe the details on the position itself were part of the packet at one point. I think it's part of this version I saw at one point. Possibly get that included.
Yeah, there was a change in the way that we are working right now to submit things to the council agenda, so it might have just been omitted with that, but I'll make sure that that gets uploaded by the council agenda.
Perfect, thank you. I think those are all the, we answered all the remaining questions I had there, so if there's nothing further from the committee.
Director Morse did say too, if there's any questions that come up after, since she wasn't here today, she's happy to answer those at any time after the fact.
Well, I guess I would move to authorize, authorize the creation of a new position, and put it before the council as a whole.
Second, motion made by Councilor Hagan, seconded by Councilor Alex to recommend passing the order and authorizing the creation of the position for full council. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Item 11465, measure accepting donation land from the Gardner School Committee for street resurfacing and paving as part of the Safe Routes to School project. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is part of the Safe Routes to School project that the school department has been doing for quite some time. There are easements that the council has approved, appropriated funding for us to be able to pay those easements to private citizens in the area. The school committee at their meeting on Monday voted to approve donating an easement valued of $10,500 for 3 different temporary easements as well as 4 permanent easements located along Elm Street. This is the project that's currently resurfacing the area of Elm Street in between Cross Street and Temple Street. It's widening the road in some cases, adding bus stops and cutout ways in front of Elm Street School and different other measures like that. I do see that this is one that also had supplemental pages of it cut off, so we'll make sure that that's added into the packet, but if the councilors like to see those supplemental pages there. The reason why the school committee is donating the land is because the way that the general laws are written, the school has custody of their land outside of the purview of the city as a whole and its administration of the city council. So the school committee actually oversees and has custody over that land. So since they've basically given it back to the city at this point, the city council has to vote to accept that coming back to the city. And so that's why it's a donation rather than a conveyance like a normal easement would be.
Sure. This is, I guess, 2 quick ones. This is part of the large grant that we received
Yes.
a while back. And then is there a timeline? Is the hope for this to be in the spring when the normal work is up?
Yeah, it's the goal is by the end of the year, this is completed.
How are the remaining easements that are needed for the project along?
It's currently in its solicitation period where people can receive payments for them. That's what the appropriation was originally for. I believe, Jen, are we currently doing that right now? That's okay. Safe Routes to School, the easements are currently out.
Yes, they should be coming to us shortly.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, shortly.
Any proceeding issues at this point of getting those easements?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
The majority of them are temporary, except for the ones in front of Elm Street School where we're cutting into the sidewalk to put a new sidewalk and bus. Yeah. Yeah.
The letter, I talked about the additional amenities. Could we get the actual maps of where the easements are going to be?
Sure.
As well, and that.
Yeah.
As we see with that, I would entertain a motion to recommend passage for measure to full council.
So moved.
Second, motion made by Councilor Hagan, second by Councilor Navarro to recommend passage to full council. Is there further discussion? None. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Final item on our packet for finance, 11454, report on the investigation of the Mackey Park project. This was the review and report done by Councilor Tyros. He put a lot of time, a lot of effort into this. It was a very thorough report, through hundreds of files, had interviews with people here. So thank you, thanks to all of them for participating. And there were recommendations made in there. One was a recommended change with the adding a subcommittee to the city council. This would be the creation of a standing committee to oversee economic and community development in the city. This was also outlined other ways that other departments, including the Disability Commission, can be a part of that. I don't know if there's any motions from the councils related to this.
I think in general, I think I'd like to leave the majority of this on our calendar, but I would like to move to recommend that rule change specific to establishing an economic development subcommittee so that the council could get that before them for discussion.
Second, motion made by Councilor Hegland, second by Councilor Denalowitz to recommend the creation of the Economic and Community Development Committee and change the rules to bring it to the full council. Is there further discussion on this?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. As for the actual report itself, I don't know if the mayor has any further comments.
No, just
time.
Tried to address a lot of it in my State of the City address last evening, as well as in other correspondence that I've had with the council at the time. Over the course of the coming weeks, we'll be sending up our full response in a series of recommendations, updates, and stuff like that once our new directive starts on the 22nd.
Include plans to remedy costs and things of that nature.
Yep.
And when is the start date for the new?
The January 22nd.
January 22nd.
Yeah.
The
Yes. The new director will be coming to visit the Tuesday council meeting next week. So he'll be introducing himself to the councilors before and after the meeting then, even if it's not on the agenda itself, just as a way of introducing himself into the new role.
As for the report itself, item 11454, I think with the new director coming in, once it's noted. Well, this is this, I'd like to keep this item on our calendar itself, so it can be discussed, hopefully with the new director as well, and he can be aware of it, we can discuss it, and we can kind of keep it here as a placeholder for that purpose. Agreed? Okay, so we'll keep that item here on the calendar. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second, motion made by Councilor Hegland, seconded by Councilor Durant.